Bună ziua! Bine ați venit la ediția cu numărul 4 Business Talks. Numele meu este Răzvan Tudor și astăzi vom discuta despre antreprenoriat în România și, de ce nu, la nivel global. Speaking about starting a business, it's always difficult, but sometimes most difficult is to keep the business alive, to grow the business and finally do some money. So from this perspective, again, double perspective, entrepreneur and professor, what would be another kind of top 5 people should pay attention when they already started a business to whatever it's around in terms of keeping the growing in the direction that everybody wants?
Yes, the biggest errors you see, particularly more studies are done in North America on this than any other place in the world, but the studies I've seen that have been replicated in other countries verify the same results. The first big failure rate is between when you start and before until you positively cash flow. And positively cash flow means it's the greatest moment in the history of your company is when revenues exceed costs. So that means you stop the bleeding, you stop the cash drain. I have a company right now that we're just going to celebrate that moment in the next 2 weeks, and it's exciting. Haven't made any profit yet, but we've stopped the bleeding. And that's the big failure rate that occurs in North America. The second big failure rate occurs in this growth process because if you don't manage your growth correctly, it can really get out of hand. So in growing your company, a couple of things you always got to be careful of is how fast do you grow it? Just think about, for example, if I'm in a consumer goods, say I make pens, and I have pens in, let's say, in just Bucharest, and I want to expand into other areas. Well, every time I go into a new store in another city, that means I got to have that inventory of, let's say in that case, I got to have 12 pens because the store's not going to just carry one because then they're out of stock right away. So you start thinking about the implications of that growth factor in consumer goods. Every time I add a distribution channel, I add inventory, I add production, and somebody's got to finance that. And so I got to have financial costs. So you got to grow correctly in a very orderly form. So you got to plan your growth in a way that makes some sense. Number 2 is you just got to control your cash. It's all about cash management. And by cash, I don't mean inventory. That's not cash. I don't mean accounts receivable because that's not cash. You can't spend any money on accounts receivable. I don't mean accounts payable. Cash is cash. And so when you're growing your company, you got to really manage your cash, especially because you tend to need it more, to take care of the growth factors. 3, I think another big factor we have to really watch for in this growth is when do we add new employees? I mean, this is a nightmare, I want to tell you. Here you are as an entrepreneur, you've never paid yourself a full salary. If you look at what your wages could be on the outside world, and you've poured everything you have back into the company because your goal is to create value for the company, not to pay yourself a salary. And now I need to hire a vice president, the level of vice president of marketing or whatever it might be. It's usually marketing is the first hire, vice president, so I can continue to grow my sales. And that is a painful thing because now I got to pay them market salary. And they could even be making more than I'm taking out in salary because, that's what the market tells you the salary is. So it's when do I hire key management people